There have been many tribunals, public hearings, fact-finding, etc. done on issues of violations of women's rights, on whether it's relating to sexual violence, custodial violence, other forms of deprivation of health rights, etc. I think what is the value and what these public tribunals bring to the fore is that in many, many situations we know that the violence against women is denied, or it is pushed under the carpet, or there is a silence that surrounds it. These public platforms where women themselves, who are the survivors and victims of various forms of deprivation, when they give their testimonies, when they speak in public, that denial is broken. There is very clearly, through their words, in the public domain, we are able to establish that these forms of violence are taking place, or these forms of violations of their fundamental rights are taking place. Apart from the visibilization of the violations, what it also does is there is a serious documentation that takes place alongside. Very often, when you want to build a campaign, when you want, whether it is within the court or through the legislature or through the executive, when policies, laws, demands are made, these reports of their testimonies form the evidence on the basis of which these demands can be made, the campaigns can be raised, and also for the women's movement itself, for the human rights movement itself, in order to understand what is the violence that is taking place, how are women dealing with it, what is the impact it's having on women's lives, whether in their personal lives, in their public lives, in their access to various other rights as citizens. For the movement itself to comprehend that, these testimonies, these statements, these depositions are also the basis on which we understand, on which we shape our campaigns, our demands. So in many ways, these tribunals have actually been the backbone of what has been raised through movements, whether through litigation or otherwise.
You know, we have over the years held 40 courts, over 40 courts really, 42, 43 I think, which is one in India, in Andhra, the villages there. But really the courts have focused on violence against women in its different manifestations, in its myriad forms. And the court that we did in India to start with in Pakistan, with Simorg and Neelam Hussain, the court there looked at the violence against women and what the issues were. I think where we've come in 20 years is really looking at and picking out the insights that we have got have been in the areas of these rights of the question of justice and the question of knowledge. These are the two insights, I would say, maybe the most important insights that we have got from this court.
The idea of the South Asia Women's Tribunal on women's human rights has its origins with, in fact, the work of WRN, the earlier work of WRN, that's the community conversations, the privileging of women's voices in situations of conflict, and focusing upon the themes of militarization and security and impunity issues, extremism, fundamentalism, and the shrinking space for democratic dissent, as well as corruption issues, and examining the political crisis that peace processes are producing in our countries. These were the three themes that led us into the community conversations in our three countries. And after listening to the voices of women, after understanding their concerns, the idea of the tribunal came into being. And at various public meetings where we presented the community conversations, the three-country conversations, where a great many women from these countries were present, there was a consensus that there was need for such a tribunal.
In the region, either this is Pakistan or India or Afghanistan, we have gap in our formal justice system. So the tribunal will not only create awareness among people to come and get support from the tribunal in terms of access to justice or raising their voices. and especially when we talk about the raising their voices, so tribunal focus will be more on marginalized communities and people in the region. And the formal justice system, because in all three countries, the formal justice system have lot of gaps, and already relating to women, we always say in our formal justice system discrimination prevails. So I think this is not an opportunity for access to justice for women. This is also addressing the existing discrimination within the law. People may say the tribunal is not the court, not the formal court, but I believe it will contribute in the formal justice system as an advisory, and on the other hand, the formal justice system in the country, but on the other hand, the tribunal will also help states how they can fulfill their international commitment.
A regional tribunal will do so much good in trying to deliver the deliverables in a concrete way when the local jurisdictions and courts are overwhelmed with so many cases. So having an additional space where you can decongest some of those courts, I think is necessary as a region. But I think above all, I could see a regional tribunal trying to achieve a much more. It will give the voice to the voiceless, maybe give a bit of power to the powerless, and empower the woman to a very large extent. A regional tribunal or a public hearing or a sort of a gathering where a society or a region feels there is a space where they want to get out grievances. I think there is always a need for that. Now, when we look at the world we inherited and the new world order and the world we want to live for generations yet unborn, we must be able to entertain a space where people who air out grievances, learn from mistakes, seek retribution, ask for fairness and justice, and where necessarily the truth. And in the context of the tribunal in the region that we're discussing, which is Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, they have common geographical interest. And it does seem as if the national and the regional, the national and the local jurisdictions, courts, maybe are overwhelmed with cases, and there is still so much out there that need to be out of people in order of hearing either voices or expressing themselves either in the aggrieved way or otherwise. I think having a tribunal like that will do a lot of good.